unique toothfish presented by Mr. Eisert.
Well, good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm delighted to be here in beautiful St. Petersburg, visit from Russia. I'm based at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, and thank you very much for allowing me to present our Antarctic work on killer whales here at the conference. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge my collaborators and sponsors. So I'm the principal investigator of the multi-institutional collaborative project called the Top Predator Alliance of New Zealand, and involves several institutions both in New Zealand and overseas, which are shown in these different colors. And we're sponsored by the New Zealand Antarctic Research Institute, by Antarctica New Zealand, the New Zealand Ministry of Primary Industries, NDIE, and Canon New Zealand provided camera views. We're particularly interested in this understanding and describing the ecosystem in the Ross Sea region. And to this purpose, we're concentrating on the top predators. Our approach is to use the top predators, the top level of the creeper, as sentinels of the ecosystem health and state, and to use them to detect changes in the environment and changes due to impacts such as fishing, because there's a fishery. And the animals shown in red are the species that we're particularly focusing on. There's fishery for toothfish that was initiated by New Zealand in the Ross Sea. This is the Antarctic toothfish, which is the most southern of the two toothfish species. The South Sea is martinized. And if you can see, it's a very large fish. It's very valuable. In New Zealand, it does not appear on the domestic market. It's all exported mostly to the US and to Asian countries. The longline fishery is regulated through CAMELA, and currently fishing nations include vessels from the Russian Federation. Now, the reason we are interested in the toothfish is that it's the primary extractive or exploitative activity in the Ross Sea, and we're worried about possible impacts on some of the top predators, such as killer whales and whale seals, which are both known to eat toothfish. Now, you may know that Antarctic killer whales, as elsewhere in the world, come in different types, forms. Pippin and Ansel published a paper in 2003 proposing 3 types of Antarctic killer whales that are all consistent things, they either diet and specialize. This hypothesis was based on different color patterns, and it's materially dependent on previous work done by Soviet-era scientists of the whaling fleet who had detected differences in diet from stomach content. Now, the hypothesis that Pippin and Ansel put forward does not consider the aspect of prey quality or what the nutritional consequences might be of only eating fish or only eating other things. So, and the reason I consider that is because marine prey varies very greatly in energy content, and this is an important factor for something as big as a killer whale. Killer whales have very high energy requirements. So this is just a picture. This is from the website of the Southwest Fisheries Institute, NOAA in the US. So I borrowed that to see the website at the bottom, if you want to see that. And please join the main part. You can see the alpha part, which is the common or garden killer whale if you like. This black and white medium-sized eye patch is horizontal. And these Antarctic killer whales are thought to eat minke whales, specialized in minke whales. And then the type B, I like to call them Bravo after the Charles alphabet, have gray shading, so they have a visible dorsal tape, and they have very large eye spots. And these are thought to eat seals and penguins. The third type is a dwarf form, as you can see, about half the size of the largest form, C or Charlie, and these are thought to be fish eaters, in parallel with fish-eating communities of killer whales described in the Northeast Pacific, the resident killer whale there for East Salmon. Now, whether or not these only eat fish, we do not know, because they've only been observed for about 2 months of the year. So they might be eating other things in the water. There was a very groundbreaking paper by Evans, Yago, and Bowles in 1982 describing geographical variation and coloration patterns of killer whales worldwide, but including Atlantic whales. You can see this is very thorough and goes beyond these 3 types that I just showed you. And Michaelis et al. Described a dwarf species of killer whale in 1981 that they called Optimus nanus. And also Belgian and Vladimirov described possibly the same killer whale in 1983 that they called Optimus glacialis. So things are a little confused. And it's very hard to see whether the type, what we now call type C, is the same as either of these 2 new species described by the Soviet scientists, because the type specimens were lost, and the description of physical characteristics that was used by the authors are all different. So, for example, in Belgian and Vladimirov, they found a very clear difference in the body size of the whale and their stomach content. So the small whales, the whales that only ate fish, they called yellow. And the whales that ate things other than fish, they called white. Now you see here that this can also occur in the exact opposite, because I'm showing you here a yellow killer whale, which is a mammal-eating killer whale, and a white killer whale, which is a fish-eating killer whale. The yellow color is transient, it's not a permanent characteristic, and therefore we cannot use this characteristic to distinguish the types. It's a real shame. Now, if we start thinking about differences in prey quality in the prey eaten by these different killer whale groups, I've got here on the y-axis different types of prey that are known to be eaten by killer whales, different populations of killer whales, that differ in energy concentration. I put shark liver on there. There's of course no sharks in Antarctica, but I put it on there because it's the highest energy, it's the prey with the highest energy concentration known to be by killer whales. In descending order, we've got shark liver, we've got whale blubber, for example, from minke whales, a mixture of whale meat and blubber, followed by whole seals, parted seals, penguins, then fat fish, and young fish. And on the x-axis, I'm showing the metabolizable energy concentration of these different types of prey. Metabolizable energy means that that's the energy you're actually getting from the food as opposed to the total energy. If you burn a piece of wood, you're getting the total energy. But if you eat the piece of wood, you get 0. It's like that. So it's just the energy you're actually getting from the food. Now, if we compare that with the different types of the different killer whale types, you can see the alphas occupy this area, the browns eat seals and penguins, and the charlies, the presumed fish eaters, eat a diet that's quite low in energy compared with the other types. Now, what we can see is that teleost fish, as opposed to sharks, teleost fish are generally smaller, so they provide smaller portions, and they're lower in energy and fat than other types of prey that are typically eaten by killer whales. What we find in the northern hemisphere, where killer whales have been studied much more thoroughly and for a much longer time than in the Antarctic, that the fish-eating killer whale populations prefer fish that are both large and very high in fat, such as herring, mackerel, salmon, or tuna. And when I say large, also fish that occur in very high density, such as herring form. So the question I asked was whether there were limits to being a fish eater, whether energetic limits to being a piscivore if you're a killer whale. Now, if we consider what fish-eating killer whales might be eating in the Ross Sea, there are 2 main candidate species. One is the toothfish, I already mentioned, and these are not to scale because they wouldn't fit on the slide. And we have Antarctic silverfish, which is a very dominant fish in the ecosystem that accounts for a very large proportion of the total biomass in the North Sea. It's a stable food, such as it's comparable to krill. In that way, it's a very stable food in that ecosystem. And it's one of the things that we think killer might eat. So if we compare these two potential prey, the toothfish is very, very large. So the median terminal length is 1.5 meters, 150 centimeters. The adult body mass of these fish is between 10 to 100 kilos. It's why they make good resource for the fishing industry. They have very high fat content, 15%, and there's a lot of calories in each fish. So one fish contains 35,000 calories, which would feed a lot of people. And the metabological energy concentration is very high, 8.5 megajoules per kilogram of fish. So we would compare that with the Antarctic silverfish, Chlorographa antarctica. They're very small fish, about this big, very small, very light, 24 grams. Fat content is medium, it's not very high. It has often been claimed in the literature that these fish are high fat because that's on a dry matter basis, not as they're eaten by the predators. So very few calories per fish, you have to eat a lot of fish, and the metabolic energy concentration is very low, 4.3, which is about medium for fish. So, and what we see is found, this is a picture taken in January this year, that the killer whales do eat toothfish. That's about half the toothfish you see there. The whole fish is about 1.5 meters long. Fortunately, the killer whales will bring up the fish, which is nice because we can see it, but also it will pull the bias because we only see what we see. And presumably, if they were feeding on small fish, they would not bring them up to the surface, but just eat them underwater, so we wouldn't see that. So, if we now consider energy requirements of the different types that eat the different diets, the alpha and the row and the charlie, what I did was I estimated body mass based on length of the different types, and I estimated their energy requirements, the field metabolic rate, which is the energy that the whales need just to lead their normal life. I'm not doing anything special, they're just doing their thing. And I found that the alphas need about 1 to 1.5 gigajoules of energy per day, but the smaller vowels need about 0.8 to 1.2 gigajoules per day, and the charlies, who are much, much smaller than the others, need only about a third to half of the energy that the other forms need. Now you will see how that relates to the diet. Another thing we noticed last season was that many of the whales had small calves. So there were many mothers with very small calves that were still nursing. And you're wondering why I'm telling you about this. Well, it is so that the female reproduction is very costly in terms of energy. It adds a lot of energy that the female has to bring into the food. Now, if we compare maintenance requirements of adult type C whales, killer whales, you can see the male on the far left. That's just the field metabolic rate, and then the adult female field metabolic rate is lower because she's smaller. And then if you look at the additional costs imposed by pregnancy, we see that a small increase. And if we then look at peak lactation, that's a very large increase. It's more than 60% larger than the ordinary state. Makes sense? And the red plus there indicates that I'm probably underestimating the true cost of lactation because there is a locomotion cost, because whale mothers drag their calves along, so there's a cost to them taking the calf along as they're swimming in the chevron formation, what's called the chevron formation. So this is a conservative estimate, a minimal estimate of the additional cost that females face as a result of nursing a calf. Now, what it is here is that I thought about how much a whale could eat a day on average. And then I thought about, well, what is the energy concentration of the food? And if you have a very high energy requirement, can you actually eat enough to bring in the energy requirement? So if you think about this, if you could eat lots of vegetables all day long, And you will probably not eat enough vegetables to meet your energy requirements because the energy concentration of vegetables is too low. Similar sort of thing. So if you eat food that is very, very low in energy, you may not be able to bring in physically eat enough food in order to meet your requirements. Apart from requirements, other things such as protein and vitamins and so on. Thank you. So as you see, if you look at the blue line, which is the lactating whale, you see that within the mass that they're likely to be eating in one day, they need to be eating food that's between at least 8 to 10 megajoules per kilogram, and that happens to be two fish. Any of the other fish are too low in energy in order for them to meet the energy requirements of fish alone. And of course, as you move into the mammals and the whole mammal field, there's no problem because those fish are much higher in energy. Now, another point I wanted to mention is that killer whales have large brains, and you may wonder why I'm mentioning that. I mention this because brain tissue requires glucose as a substrate, and we know from studies in other animals that it's not enough to get amino acids as raw materials. We also need any animal that's a hypercarnivore, you only eat meat, needs to have a high fat diet in order to get enough glycerol to make glucose to the brain. And of course, lactating cells also require sugar to make milk. If we compare brain requirements with killer whales, what I've done here is I am comparing animals that are about the same body mass to make the comparison more easily, to make the comparison easy. So we've got killer whales, elephants, and male elephant seals, which are all about the same size. And you look at the relative requirements of the brain, you can see killer whales have very high glucose demand. And male elephant seals very small demand, very small. And if you're wondering how humans compare, so humans have very high demand. It's still a lot higher than most whales. Now, in summary, killer whales have a very high requirement for energy and lipids, especially for lactation and also for carbs. Now, the consumption of non-fish prey types of killer whales cannot be excluded at this time. We need more research. But if there are strict fish eaters, and it's highly likely because we know there's strict fish eating populations in the northern hemisphere, then the only prey that they can subsist on, especially during reproduction, will be the toothfish in this Ross Sea region. And we're wondering whether maybe the small size of the type C fish-eating killer whale is an adaptation or even adaptation to fish diet, because it seems that all the fish-eating populations of killer whales tend to be smaller than the mammal-eating killer whales. The taxonomic status of type C killer whales needs to be resolved, very important, both for biological purposes, scientific purposes, and for management purposes. And we believe that the development of a specialized fish-eating form of killer whale in the Southern Ocean is predicated on availability of high-fat, very large and/or clustered prey, which is the fish. That's the two results here. There would be no fish-eating killer whale if there wasn't any fish. And we believe that pioneering Soviet research in Antarctica is essential for addressing these questions, and we hope that we will be able to collaborate with special scientists to resolve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regina. We have time for one quick question. Okay.
Очень интересный доклад. Вопрос такой. Взаимоотношения косаток и рыболовства. Какой процент косатки съедает рыбаков от всего улова по качеству?
That's a great question. We have no idea. It's very at the beginning. We don't know how many killer whales there are. We don't know how much toothfish they eat. The photo I showed you was only the third photo ever taken of killer whales and toothfish. So yes, we